Hello and welcome to another episode of Front End Horse Live. This is something in my throat, but it's also a very special episode where we have some of the Netlify team on to walk us through, show us, give us the secrets, the inside scoop, the little Easter eggs, all the good stuff about the Netlify homepage that just went live a couple weeks ago. And I am very, very excited to learn everything that went into this, from design to animations to you name it. We're going to be getting into it. I see we already have some questions filling up our log, but first I want to introduce the wonderful people who decided to come on here. God bless them, because honestly, like that's just, guys, like I don't know if you'll ever come back after this, but I think you're going to have a good time here. So, Ryan, Justin, Sam, thank you so much for being here. Why don't you go kind of in that order, I guess, and introduce yourself.
Sure. Why don't you start with me? I'm Ryan. I am the marketing engineering lead at Netlify. Been with Netlify since February. So we're, excited to be here. I've been on the show once before with you, Alex. I'm excited to come back and share the stuff we're doing over there.
Awesome. And I did want to say, I said you might not be back on. That was more, you might run screaming rather than you won't be invited back. I will invite you back all the time. So wanted to clarify that. But
I think you said last time too.
Yeah. Justin.
Hey, I'm Justin. I'm the director of brand design here at Netlify. I've been here for about a year, based out of San Francisco. I'm really excited to be on the show. Thank you for inviting me.
That's awesome. Thank you, Justin. It's great to have you. And Sam.
And I'm Sam, front-end engineer on the marketing team here at Netlify, based out of Austin. And let's not bury the lead. Happy belated birthday to you, Alex. Everyone in the chat, let's wish Alex happy birthday.
Thank you, Sam. And that is actually why I invited you here. I haven't looked at this
this is actually your birthday celebration. Surprise.
Yeah, I mean, we wanted some excuse I don't have many friends, so Justin, Sam, I just met both of you, but you're one of the 3 people at my birthday party, so thank you for being here. All right, chat, if we all sing at once, no, just playing. But thank you, Sam. That's very kind. Cool. So, all right, we got some gift subs. Mike, I appreciate it. So let me actually, I remember now what I was gonna do. I was gonna move that alert box so it's not just popping up over Sam's face every time.
Oh, please.
Let's move that up there. There we go. It's the least I could do. So yes, we are going to be digging through this website. So I say let's get to it, because I just want to make sure. A lot of setting up here. So chat, just a heads up, more broadly to folks who are familiar with the stream. First time doing 4 people total at once, so there might be a little bit of hiccups and glitches here and there. I appreciate you bearing with. But yeah, without further ado, let's see if our next overlay works and does it does. It seems to work pretty well. So we're here, name tags match up. All right, great. The big horse is in the way, but that's just how we roll. Cool. So the 3 of you, along with a couple other folks, I assume, right? Like you had a bunch of people working on this. But built out this page. So right now we're just going to kind of scroll through it so that everyone's kind of familiar with it. As we talk about it, you're not like, what do they mean? So I'm going to go through it and just kind of like narrate what I'm seeing, and y'all can be like, this is the worst user testing experience of my life, or maybe it's good. So bring it all together. We scroll down and we get this nice animation with the numbers counting up. That slides out. That's really slick. Oh, and I skipped this whole part where you grab this and get these little animations where the images come together, and you scroll down, you get that nice little animation, come to this big section, make your work flow. And by the way, if people are wondering what the URL is, it's netlify.com. You get that nice little animation. Chat, keep that in mind because that might come back later. Little foreshadowing, all right? And then as we scroll, that sticks. We get a nice little testimonial. Go into another section, and then you got these really cool. First off, I love the design of these. I'm sure we'll get into everything, but it's like a horizontal scroller that shows off each of the things that you can build on Netlify. And then we go into another section with more scrolly, sticky. I'm excited. Half of my excitement around this is just finding out what y'all call this stuff, because I'm like, the sticky, scrolly parts. I really am curious what, like, internally you were saying, like, hey, did you get the sticky, scrolly part done, or whatever you call them. So that's just half of it. I just want terminology. So as you scroll through, the windows come up over front, and you show how you have all these different frameworks and different tools that can be used on Netlify. And it's a nice, long, scrolly telling thing. And we come to more horizontal cards and testimonials, and that's the end. But there's so much packed into this. So now that we're all kind of on the same page, get it? Yeah, talk to me about this. Who kind of want to pick up? Sorry, who would like to pick up the thread of, like, the overall goal here, or like what were we trying to communicate? What were we trying to accomplish with the page?
Yeah, who wants to start? Justin, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I can start us off. So we wanted to communicate two main things here. One is that Netlify being in the center of this ecosystem with all these integrations and frameworks, and us being really the conduit to helping developers connect all these things, bring it all together, if you will. And the other thing we wanted to communicate was to really explain how Netlify helps to improve the developer workflow, and how all these integrated technologies really make it easy to push all the things, all the busy work out of the way, and get to building, get to the things that are most important to the developer. So that was really our two goals that we wanted to push through for this.
Cool. That I mean, you definitely get the sense of that. The, like, bringing everything together aspect of Netlify is, in my opinion, well communicated. You kind of hit that point over and over, but to a very effective level where it's clear that you can do pretty much anything here. So that's really cool. Sorry, I'm totally blanking with technical stuff. So apologies. Yeah, I thought up to the sorry, blanking a little bit. So let me just dig in here. Yeah, so, like, how long was this process? Because it seems like a page that would take me a solid 6 months to design, build, and all that kind of stuff. But I'm guessing you didn't have the luxury of that kind of time.
Yeah, it was a pretty quick process, but so the team got together, the marketing team, so design developers, other stakeholders got together in Austin. Gosh, when was that? Was that end of March, beginning of April?
Yeah. So,
I can't remember. Time is such a blur. But
Yeah.
we got together, and, like, one of the big things we're trying to do as a whole, so product, marketing, docs team, we're trying to, like, really get more cohesion. So Cohesin, as we're calling it, and trying to get, like, a lot of our stuff
Cohesin,
to.
is that just a fun way of saying it, or is that something? Is that
an internal word? Yeah.
Ooh, okay, we're getting
So
the
trying to
inside
get,
scoop
like,
here.
yeah, so trying to get all our stuff to, look a little more together, cohesed.
Got it. I
So
remember recently, or I guess recently within the last year at some point, there was, like, a new light mode, dark mode release for Netlify, and it was part of, like, colors getting cohesed, as we would put it, across Netlify in like a design system. So is this kind of part of that move where you're trying to make everything kind of look and feel the same way? So the update to the homepage was part of that, or?
yeah. So, like, the colors, for example, it's part of we're creating, like, more of a design token system that we can start putting colors into and sharing those across the board, right? So we're starting to see that happening more and more.
Cool.
So trying to get that stuff sort of fitted in with all the marketing projects we're trying to do, and then, like, of course, internal stuff that we have to take care of. But yeah, it's, like, slowly starting to build out.
Nice. And Jason, good to see you, says cohes, and Lynn says bless you. It's wonderful. That's yeah, that's really cool, that you have the gradients and everything. So like that's all coming from the design system. This is, like, partly that big update for just rolling that out across Netlify, across the entire entire company and the entire product, I guess, right?
Yep. So Justin's been doing a great job of doing a lot of layers and new just like new features, new pieces that we can start putting into the marketing site that are starting to get into the product and to DocSite as well. And then like, you know, the ultimate goal is to get to a point where we've kind of introduced like a new layer of theming.
Got it. Okay. So this is like step one, and then other pages like your other landing pages will like get updated and in time. I assume they haven't yet, or have they? Haven't checked. I'll be honest.
Some have, some have not. So you're going to
Got
see
it.
some old stuff, some new stuff.
Got it. I mean, you can't update everything at once, right? It's impossible.
It would be awesome if we could.
That's true.
That's
true.
the dream.
I mean, that's the dream. But I kind of said it before we went live, where like things like that, where it's like we're not there yet, right? Like our design system isn't there yet. Our internal testing isn't there yet. Like I think those kinds of answers to questions are some of the best for people to hear, because it's just like it's the most human. It's the most it's not this overwhelming thing of like Netlify's up on this mountain and I'll never achieve that. I'll never get there, or I could never work there because they have everything figured out. These people are just super geniuses. But it's just like, yeah, we're all just iterating, we're all progressing, we're all working towards something a lot bigger.
Yeah, and I think we go through a lot of learning like everybody else does. It's not like we have everything figured out and we just like roll out new pages and like everything just kind of works right off the bat. Like with the homepage, for example, we had a pretty tight time frame that we tried to stay inside, but a lot of stuff we had to iterate on and change. We had to pivot because of the way things were just not working out, maybe with some of the proposed animations as we communicated back and forth with the design team, and like how we had to go through and change that stuff up just to make it work a little bit better, maybe pull stuff back a little bit, like thinking about how we play with motion where we can have fun with it but not be too out of control with it.
Okay, so yeah. I am super interested there. Oh, sorry, I cut someone off.
I was just agreeing. I think one of the early discoveries that we had with some of the animation was just like it was too much. We needed to be more cognizant of people who prefer reduced motion and make sure that animation didn't get away. It was just really there to supplement the storytelling.
That's awesome. First off, Jason, thank you so much for those gifted subs. I have no idea how many there are. It feels like there's 100. Jason, 10 gifted subs. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. That's super kind. And thank you for setting this whole thing up. Jason, appreciate you. Yeah, there's so much there. So like a lot of my personal interest and a lot of my questions are going to be around animation. And I'm always curious how different shops work between design and development in terms of animation. Some I've seen kind of like the designer goes into After Effects, creates everything, and just kind of hands it off, or even ships it in Lottie and just says, "Hey, I think you can install this," right? Like go add this to the page. Sometimes it's collaborative. I would love to kind of hear how you worked on the animations, how you kind of went back and forth maybe. Yeah. Could you walk me through that process a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So even before we created high fidelity mocks, we started off with a wireframe with the plan of animating it. So the first thing that the design team did was to create this animatic within Figma. So this was a prototype that would animate all these like, it was basic shapes. So it was just blue rectangles coming together and the hero and things like of that nature. And then obviously communicating our intentions with how the animation would come together with Ryan and Sam to just see if it's like something that we can do or actually get some ideas from them. And I think one of the first ideas that we got from you, Ryan, was to have these shapes like magnetize in the hero together around the cursor. So a lot of collaboration there. From then on, we took the animatic and created hi-fi mocks, and then we actually did go into After Effects. So Daniel on the design team
Cool.
took some portions of the site, which were, really hard to communicate with just words and like try to get the idea out there. So we really went to work in After Effects, having that stuff animated in high fidelity to show Ryan and Sam the next steps. But it was a really collaborative process, and I really appreciated everyone's work and input there to get this done.
That's awesome. Did Ryan or Sam want to add anything on that?
Yeah, and I think it was fun to go back and forth. And I've never worked with a design team so closely before, so I think that's been really refreshing with Netlify. And not by like choice, you always want to, right? It's just that you very often fall into that sort of waterfall effect where it's like design gets it done, it's passed off, thrown over the fence. But we had the opportunity to really work closely on this, which is great, especially being a remote team, right? Like being able to like really find time to collaborate and work together. So like a lot of the stuff I was doing, of course, using CodePen, since that's like my tool
Your
of
language.
choice.
It's
So
your love language, right?
Oh, it is very much so. So I'm always in there working on stuff. So when Justin was presenting a lot of these animations, it just gave me a chance to go in there and create these very quick prototypes and like throw them back over and say, hey, what do you think of this? So for example, what he mentioned with sort of the magnetism of the top header stuff, right? So we just had that in a prototype and a code pen. So we got a sense of, okay, we see how this is going to work. We can tone back the magnetism parts a little bit, like refine it, and then, bringing it all together. So thinking about how we can like sort of weave that story into the hero here.
Awesome. Sam, did you want to touch on that or?
I really just kind of echo what Ryan was saying about being able to work so closely with design was like a really big blessing, considering even the time constraint that we had to like really fit within that deadline. It was really vital for us to just be like face to face with Justin and the other designers and just kind of like point out like this animation isn't going to really flow well within the next page and what we're trying to convey there. So that all really helped the whole process be like as smooth as possible, considering how much time we had and like how much we needed to put on the homepage to convey our story.
Awesome. Like that kind of a working environment. Are you doing like so? And this is such like a nitty gritty kind of question, but I don't know. These sorts of things are where like the rubber meets the road, in my opinion. Like, is this like the Figma calls in there? Like what did you find most cohesive to like reduce any kind of friction and make it feel like you're sitting next to them? Is the Figma? I haven't used that much, but I would just what tool?
I feel like we were like almost using everything. We had, After Effects animations, we had Figma prototypes, we had Ryan with CodePen. So it's kind of just like whatever tool was available and to convey the story, because it's like at the end of the day, we're having to hand this off to someone else to like either Justin's trusting me to implement like the vision that he has, or like Ryan or Justin's trusting Ryan to kind of take this magnetism idea and take that and run with it. So,
Got it.
So it's kind of like whatever tool we're comfortable with that we use to convey that story. We kind of use whatever.
I was So I asked it poorly a bit, where more around like, is it a Google Meet or a Zoom call, or it's such a not interesting question, so we can just bounce through it though. It's all good. Because super quick to the chat. The sound issues are happening on my end. It seems to be some kind of a latency thing around having 3 video feeds come through. So all the robot sounds, that's my bad. So apologies to my guests and to the viewers if that gets rough at all. Just know it's on my end. Not sure what to do right now, but I have a question on this, and then I would love to take some questions from the chat. Basically, this whole this sequence, I'm really curious how you map out and keep track of and like organize such a long sequence that kind of touches on different things, but it's all interconnected. Where like lots of sites have these kind of like will be just sectioned off, and it's like, okay, it's kind of like its own thing. The information lives here, and it doesn't need to connect to the next piece or the previous piece. It can just kind of like live here, and it's not as like I don't need to worry about how this will then move and shift around. Was this like storyboarded? How did you keep this in one, like, just conceptually? How did you keep track of this?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, we started off with the animatic, and this portion of, along with the hero, basically, we were using this site, this fictional site, as sort of like a character throughout this story. So that's what we wanted to convey, is just like this through line through the workflow of a single project and all the steps that are needed to complete this project, and all the things that Netlify provides to help you get through that really smoothly. So one of the things that we thought of was just to have this character progress through the story, be persistent, have it morph into, you know, other settings, if you will, pretty smoothly. And I think with the help of the awesome developers we had, we brought this to life, and it's great.
That makes so much
Yeah,
sense. Sorry. Yeah.
it's interesting from like a technical standpoint in terms of, so Justin mentioned the animatic that he put together, where, you know, it kind of flows through and you see it's mocking the scroll of the user, right, in the video that they put together. But you don't really get the scroll story effect. Like, to really go through that and really feel how it's going to feel as a user scrolls, that's like really difficult to portray in just a video. So I think that was a fun, can I say fun, Sam? Fun thing to figure out. Like the mystery behind that. Like, how do we figure out how to, like, you know, take what Justin had done to create this story and then make it really work as you're scrolling through and make it feel like it's working really well.
Awesome.
Yeah. I don't, and I guess as far as like the technical implementation of this, and like how do we take a design mock-up of like a After Effects file, and we I'll say, like, even after developing this, we did look into things like Lottie and stuff to like figure out how we can make this better, but unfortunately we didn't have those tools didn't have like much experience with those tools, or it wasn't something we could really dig into with that timeline I was talking about earlier. So thankfully Ryan has a little bit of experience with GreenSock, and thankfully like their APIs are like really easy to jump into. So with the mock-ups and the animatic that they were talking about, I kind of just think about the pieces that you have for each scene. So I think there's like different, like there might be 5 scenes that we're trying to convey here, and between each scene we have a piece that connects those scenes. I'm talking about the scroll story at the
Got it.
bottom
Okay.
there. Yeah. So like, for instance, we have this browser UI, and then we like move that, and then we move in different UIs for the next section, and then we'll take this UI and then we move it. As you can see, we move and bring that globe in.
Yeah.
So that's like a different scene. So
Got it.
between each of these, I'm kind of like thinking about what is the piece that is connecting these scenes, and then as far as like how do you organize the different pieces for these scenes, it's kind of like taking a massive, I was able to export all of this and have it as one big SVG, and then it's kind of like just flipping on what you're showing, and then at certain times, I'm like a big fan of like movies and films.
Cool.
So I was able to kind of just like think, like, if I was like watching a film, and I'm transitioning between scenes, you don't want to like transition, like have a jarring experience when you're transitioning between motion and scenes. Like if something's coming from the left and then you
Eyeline rules and stuff like
right,
that.
yeah. Like
Cool.
I like to merge my experiences of like what I like in other like fields and stuff like that, and have that influence like what I love and with web development. So yeah, that's like kind of like where my brain was when kind of like conceptualizing this actual whole scroll story here.
I mean,
It's like,
Sam, that makes a lot of sense. Just based on like we kind of talked about how you're already storyboarding it. Justin talked about it being like a character that's kind of going through like this website is going on like a hero's journey in a sense, right?
Yeah.
And then yeah, the aspects of film when telling the story and making sure that you're not confused as the website all of a sudden jumps over there, or like you lose the context. I think those kinds of skills or just knowledge is incredibly useful when trying to walk a user through even a story about a product, right? Like that, like holding on to story is a really powerful thing for just communication with other human beings. And I like to communicate with human beings. It's one of my main things. So I think that's useful. Super quick, Demetrius Dom? Do y'all know what Demetrius by chance? Because he just gifted a whole bunch of subs. Dom, really appreciate you, buddy. Thank you so much for that. And George just said hello. So many fantastic people here. Dom, seriously, thank you for those subs. That's super kind. I want to grab a question from the audience, but I have a feeling that the whole thing where Supabase winds itself down after a little bit, yep, it bit me. So my fun thing of like, hey, don't worry about it. We're not going to miss your question as long as you put that in front, because I save it to a Supabase instance. You're good. It'll. But if that doesn't, yeah. So we haven't used it for a while, and I don't think Supabase is listening to me right now. So if someone in the chat wants to volunteer, here's what I'm doing as kind of a side thing. I'm opening Discord on my other computer. If you want to DM me the I wonders, I would super appreciate you. Just one person kind of call out and we'll figure it out. But until then, I'm scrolling all the way to the top. Kind of see. So Tylopius2 asks, did you use GreenSock for the to-do items changing columns? So do we want to get into that in a little bit? We might have a little bit of a demo, a little official, unofficial demo here that we can kind of walk through. So we'll be hitting that. So I think the answer, Ryan, is
the answer is yes.
Yes,
correct.
It was GSAP. Yeah, big points to Tylopius. You can pick them up at the end of the stream. Let me see. Just scrolling through a little bit. Does Netlify have a design library? I love it. By the way, that I don't think I explained that to my guests. They're all just wondering what the heck just happened. We have a confetti thing, and if you hit ! Yay, and then choose any emojis after that, you can throw specific emojis into the air. So just be aware that green socks can fly through the air. Yeah, so Tylopius also asks, does Netlify have a design library? We touched on that a little bit, but if you want to add a little more.
Yeah, it's very much still in progress. We are iterating on a design library, working with the product team there. I think what we have at the moment is a little more rudimentary than what we want, but we're always improving on it and always adding to it. So, yeah.
Awesome. Shoot, sorry, I'm just trying to troubleshoot some audio stuff, and I don't know why. Okay, cool. So I apologize. I'm gonna ignore all that, any audio hiccups, and just keep rolling. All right, chat. Let's. I'm gonna mute the confetti for a little bit. It is fun. It just could be a little distracting. As soon as I said it, I'm like, I know everyone's just gonna be like, well, let me try. And
New feature.
Fair game. It's fun. So Reese asks, what decisions were made in terms of browser support? Did you only go back X amount of versions or check percentage of usage like on Can I Use? I think what Reese is really, truly trying to get at here, and I think we all want to know this, does it run in IE11? I mean, that's what that's what everyone's using right now. We all want to know, will it run on Internet Explorer 11? And if not, how many sales are you losing because it doesn't? That's really what you have to think about at the end of the day. Yeah, I mean, what do you have to say for yourselves?
Well, I'm gonna go with it probably doesn't work great,
Okay. All right.
but we are going off the data that we have in terms of like the users that are using certain browsers. I don't even think IE is in the list that I've seen or been
It
told
should not
about.
be.
We don't test in IE.
Yeah. But
Is
so
anybody anymore? I guess it's still worth doing though. It's still a good time.
it, honestly,
You want to have a good time.
this yeah. My joke could lead to a whole side tangent, but yeah, I feel like only
Yeah.
if you're serving.
I mean,
if you're selling to developers, nah, that makes no
yeah,
sense.
I mean,
right?
that being said, it's important that the website works everywhere. I mean, you should be able to access content, go through a workflow, and get what you need. But
Cool.
Unfortunately, we did not test in IE.
But you go back to a certain percentage of like, can I use, or you do like latest two versions or something.
Yep. Yeah, that's what we try to stick to. So latest two of the modern browsers.
Nice. Tylopius, really appreciate all the questions. Does this page have tests? And if so, what and how do you test?
We don't have testing on the marketing site. That's something that we want to get into. And
Cool.
I think it's unfortunately starting to fall down the list a little bit because there's so much other stuff that we're trying to do first. But it's something we want to see happen a little bit more often. It's not like something I see as crucial for the marketing site, but as we get into componentizing certain things, like for example, having a scroll story, it'd be great to have a test in there if we ever want to move stuff around. And right now it's not super modular where we can take one section and move it above another.
Right.
You know, kind of it's one single story, but getting to the point where we can componentize, is that a word?
Yes.
Some of that stuff
if
to make it
cohese
sort
is a
of
word, yeah, I think componentize is a word.
It is now.
Yeah,
Where we
we're
want to
adding
like
lots of stuff.
move stuff around and have tests that can, you know, check to make sure that things are still working the way we want them to.
Awesome. What is the stack, so to speak, on the site, or on this page, I should say?
Yeah. Yeah, go for it.
Oh,
Take it away.
So this is built with Levendy. Shout out to Zach. And we're using the Levendy View plugin so we're able to like use Vue as like a templating language, but we're not using any of like the reactive properties for Vue.
Got it. So
For any like JavaScript stuff, we're explicitly like calling out to those script files for like any interactive pieces of the site.
okay, cool, nice. So 11T, a bit of Vue, and some green sock, right, to handle pretty much all of the animations,
Right.
all of them, right? And hosted on Netlify, I'm assuming.
You'd be
I
correct.
think it still is.
I hope you get an enterprise or whatever thing, because cool. And then yeah, so like I do love that it's on 11T. I mean, first off, I love that. And sorry for scrolling. I think I said this already in the email between us, where like it's just gonna be me scrolling up and down. I've been doing this for the past like 3 weeks, ever since we started to schedule this show, just going up and down. It's just really fun. I'm sorry, chat. It's really fun to do this. These kinds of things are fun. Get off my back about it. I wish you would. But no. So what was I even saying? 11T. Just that you can get a really dynamic animated website without needing to buy into a big bulky framework. I feel like there's kind of a misconception sometimes around needing a whole bunch of React or a whole bunch of JavaScript in general to get something like this. I mean, granted, GreenSock is JavaScript, but I don't think most people would guess that this was an 11T page, to be honest. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. Chat, let's leave it to chat. Chat, what did you think before you knew the thing you know now? What would you have guessed? I don't know. We'll find out. Reese asks, let's see. Oh, we already did the browser support. Jason, thank you again for the subs. Really kind of you. Sorry, I wish my Wonder thing was working. I had everything checked. Not Supabase. What are your success metrics for this redesign? As in, how do you measure the positive impact of the redesign? Really good question.
That is a really good question. So one of the metrics, of course, is performance and how much we send to the sign-up page. And I think that is true for the entire marketing site. But the other ones I'm really interested in, and I don't know if we have a handle on how to measure this yet, but it's really about like brand sentiment and share of voice, which are part of our metrics here. But that's what I'm looking for in the site. Besides how many people we push through the funnel, is about how does this come off and affect our brand and how people are perceiving us. And what I assume is that the cool things that we're doing on the site really influences how people see Netlify and really view us as people who really care about web development and care about making really cool things. And I hope that comes through. I just don't know how to measure that yet, besides interviewing way too many people. But
yeah, so that, first off, I want to say, and this is not just because you are here and because y'all just threw, like some of the Netlify crew just threw a bunch of subs at me. I promise this is what I would have said yesterday on my own. I do feel like you as a company, as a team, kind of nailed that. Like Jason and the developer experience team with that video. I don't remember the name of it, but I remember it. Was there like, it was the, yeah, I don't know.
Tale of Two Universes.
Yeah,
Thank
Tale
you.
of Two
That
Web
was it.
Development Universes.
That
yeah.
was it.
That was a great video.
Yeah, but it felt like a Netlify video to me. Like y'all have a great, friendly, warm kind of feel. And yeah, I do think like stuff like this very much feels like that video. You got Demetrius here. You've got this like working the folks at Netlify into these sorts of things and making it as like very friendly kind of language, and just, I don't know, it all feels you could remove the logo and I would still figure out that this was Netlify, not just because I can recognize faces and I know Demetrius's face, but other reasons too. I mean, I'm good with faces, but also other stuff. Yeah, it's just I think that's something that's tough to measure, as you kind of touched on, Justin. Sorry, the stutter is getting bad. But it is an important thing that it's something that is bigger than just click-throughs or sign-ups, but it's a longer tail kind of approach to design and building a company. So I had nothing after that.
That's what drew me to Netlify before I even started. Was that Netlify felt like it was like kind of a fun, like the community is really warm, like the people working there are really friendly, and it feels like very approachable. So I like that we get to have a lot of fun and experiment. Like one of the things we did, I don't know, Alex, if you've found like if you enter the Konami code on the site, you can add noises to it on the homepage.
On this,
yeah,
on this one,
yeah.
All right, now I need to really, we're going to test my gamer/nerd cred and see if I can get it. So up, down, left, right, BA. Oh, I hit Z. So that's just my typist skills, not my gamer cred there. Okay, let me try it again. Up, down, left, right, BA, enter.
Up, down.
Up,
left,
down,
right,
down.
left,
all right,
right.
That's it, everybody. Bye. Bye. All right, I'm just gonna. We're never.
Gotta fire up that Nintendo.
See, I try to go for it, and oh well. Up, down, left, right. BA, start. Mute Phil. Is Phil talking here?
So now I grab one of the to-do items.
Tonk.
Oh, does it get the audio?
Oh, well, I guess we
I'm not
can't
trying the
hear it.
audio.
But
You
Yeah.
can't
is-
hear it. Yeah. He said tonk, so I can just repeat. No, I'm not going to repeat it. But chat should be able to hear it. Let me just check.
Tonk.
Yeah, chat can hear it. So
Oh,
Tonk.
awesome.
Tonk.
Yeah, so there's like, I think if you try scrolling too, so it'll give you more of an excuse to be scrolling around their site. If you try and like scroll real
It's scroll
fast.
like pretty fast. It should make a whoosh.
I'm not hearing it.
Oh, mouse.
Now I
like
am. Now I am. So yeah, on like scroll wheel. That's
Yeah.
really fun. All right, that's really see. Those are the Easter eggs I was looking for. That's why
So,
I love it.
yeah, it's things like that that make it like a really fun environment. Like trying to just continually introduce kind of experimental
Plonk.
fun
Or try
items to the site.
Yeah, try on the home page again and like click on those little when they all the UI come together. Yeah.
Yeah, bloop. So good. And then he did. Yeah, so like, yeah, I could gush about like the stuff that Netlify is working on, all that stuff. Y'all are a lot of fun, but for this page in particular, I do want to make sure, yeah, we are getting through people's questions because there are lots of so like. The main reason why I wanted to have y'all on is because I think there's so much value in picking the brains of the people who are making, these high quality kinds of pages. I think this is an exceptional page, and learning how you kind of work through that process where like we talked about design and animation, and figuring out how that handoff works and how the ideation works and the storytelling. That's where I see like kind of like the value for the audience. And beyond that, I like talking shop about this kind of stuff. But I do want to make sure we are getting to folks' questions. And really, this is so much easier to pick out when a little bot does it for me. But Wing Matt, good to see you. And Matt says, just got here. I was wondering if that was done with GreenSock. Okay, so an example of a cool scroll event that doesn't have to hijack scrolling itself. Yeah, so I mean, I guess we can actually chat a little bit about GreenSock scroll trigger more broadly. Like you want to kind of go into some of the GreenSock details and talk about what developing with that was like.
Sure. Yeah. We can start with the story, I guess, if that makes sense. We use GreenSock for everything. So we kind of really very heavily leaned into all the things that GreenSock offers, right? So like scroll trigger being the biggest one that we're using here, but then some other stuff like draggables when you were dragging the to-do items, we're using that from GreenSock because it just makes it so like the API is so, for me, like dead simple. Like again, it's really approachable is probably the better way to put it for me. So I really like it a lot. And then I know like Sam and I had paired up on just doing like a prototype of this story and getting a sense of what that can look like as you're going through each section. And that's something that Sam, I know you didn't really have a lot of GreenSock experience before it, but he was able to take that prototype and really run with it like very quickly. So I think just the speed at which we could get set up and start building things is why we really kind of focused on using GreenSock for a lot of these animations.
Yeah, and to say this scroll story doesn't require GreenSock by any means. Like for instance, Lynn released a project she was working on, I think it's matterday.netlify.com, where she was able to accomplish like a similar scroll story, but through just CSS. So I don't think anyone should feel like they need to know GreenSock or have experience with JavaScript to accomplish something like this.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And I mean, at the same time, like Sam, I completely agree. But also Lynn Fisher like draws like the Mona Lisa with one div. So
okay, yeah, we can't all be Lynn. I get it.
Yeah,
I try, but
Lynn is incredible, and this is such a great page. Like completely agree with you. Not trying to like debate, but yeah, I Lynn's skills are just phenomenal. Yeah.
There's a blog post for what Lynn had done on this too, so you should check that out. It's on the Netlify blog.
I have not gotten to that yet, and I'm very
That's
excited
so
to
good.
dig into that because, yeah, she's incredible. But Sam, I completely agree with the sentiment. Absolutely, that yeah, don't feel like I can only do animations if I learn this thing. Right? There's tons of different ways to get similar effects like this. I do know that like lots of folks reach for GreenSock, partly because of like how nice the APIs are, the performance, but also I think Jack does a really good job of checking to make sure that it works cross browser. You don't have to worry about like in Safari it's doing a weird thing, right? Like he kind of handles all that stuff for you. But I'm right with you there in terms of really enjoying the way that GreenSock makes this a lot easier. So these kind of come down to lots of small demos, or is that's kind of what you were saying, right, Ryan? Where it was like you were doing demos of each of these kinds of story sections.
Yeah, prototyping just the general outline of it, right? So when
Got
it
it.
really came to the story sections, I mean, this is Sam's work. Sam did a phenomenal job of jumping in and like really bringing these to life.
Got it.
So big ups on Sam. But
Sam, it's so good.
we just, it's just kind of getting set up. We paired and I made a code pen of it, like of a really basic, like so as you enter each section, how it's going to trigger animations. And what's nice is that these animations kind of exist on their own, but then you can insert them into a section because you're essentially just saying like, all right, scroll trigger. Once I get to this area, I want to start this animation, or I want to do something. I just want to do something. So once it enters, that's when we're starting those animations and like playing with like the speed of it and like how it's overlapping and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Cool. And
Yeah.
this right here, is this draw SVG, or is
Not,
that
not exactly. It is just manipulating the offset,
cool?
the stroke offset. But
Nice.
I do know that GreenSock does offer like their own SVG draw API. But yeah, I was able to just use the offset for this.
Perfect. Yeah, I think I don't remember. Like, I've used it a little bit, but I don't remember what instances you should reach for that instead of just manipulating the offset for
Hmm.
the stroke, whatever it's called. I always have to look it up, but that's a fun one. I wasn't sure if you were gonna say it, but
No, I did.
all good, all good. So actually, like sticking with the GreenSock animation bit, do you want to dig into the Kanban board animation a little?
Sure, yeah.
Cool. And we can come back to some
So
questions just to kind of stick with the, to stick with GreenSock a bit. So this was something that you put together before launching, I assume, right? So
yeah, we had the animatic of this, right? So Justin put together like an awesome looking animatic and I'm like, how the heck, I don't know how we're gonna be able to do this. So I finally just, as I do, opened up a code pen and said, let me see if I can figure out how to make this work. Yeah, so just using scroll trigger when you enter that section, then we want to start this animation and then trying to figure out how to have all these, like each swim lane, so like the two lanes that are in there, how they're going to like collapse and expand as they allow these things to transition from one lane to the other. So I came up with a solution, which I feel pretty good about. What made it really, really easy for me was to use the flip technique. And GreenSock actually has flip built in, which is a library that allows you to, what is it? It's first, last, invert play, right? So we're essentially just we're taking, so in this example, we're taking a task, we're putting it in the position we want it to be, then pulling it back to that first position and animating to that last position using like transform properties, right?
cool.
Because they're going to work a lot better than actually trying to animate like top, left, right, like those position properties, where it's not going to cause like it's like all performance is like enhanced with that. And using this, it makes it really easy to kind of go through it. Where if you, oh, I love it.
I just slowed it down just in case you want to like I mean, first off, that is really satisfying just to watch. So we can just sit here and enjoy that. But like, so
I haven't seen it like this, and I kind of like it. Maybe we slow it down.
if you're accepting pull requests,
slow
I
mode.
can put one in on the homepage. So right now the CI/CD card is figuring out, or I mean like the card isn't, but GreenSock's figuring out its like end state, moving it there, and then bringing it. No, wait, sorry. You explain it because I'm already butchering it.
Sure. Yeah, if you want to reload the page and slow it down again, we can talk through it.
Let's go even slow. Let's see what like the
Or
perfect
do
amount
that,
is.
yeah.
Maybe at 6.6. Okay, so we scroll down into view, and then
So if you can imagine, the scaling task is already in that spot, but we've pulled it back to animate from the first spot. So it does the calculation, right? And then animates it to where it lives. So it's almost like if you can think of like backup rollbacks, like is in the Netlify solves lane, and then we pull it out, like we do that calculation and animate it to where it's living.
got it. And yeah, we might actually even be able to see, because there's like two different divs, right? We won't dig into like the flip plugin too much, but let me just see if this is gonna be a hard task. I think I set us up for failure. Yeah, so
like just
shifting over.
Yeah, just prepending to that list.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough to catch, but basically, yeah, it pops it over, but then uses transforms, like CSS transforms, to bring it back over and then shifts it. It's a cool technique. It's a lot of fun, and so you're saying it was a lot easier with the plugin.
For sure, yeah. If you scroll down a little bit in the code here, so that animate task, right? So that's going to be called once you hit scroll trigger where it's being set, and then we go through, and then what flip does is that we on line 41. So we're saying that we're going to flip from the state. So if you scroll up a little bit, is where we're actually setting that state. So flip has it where we get the current state of all these things. So you can pass an array. So I'm getting like the team lane, Netlify's lane, getting the task, and then the task that we're moving.
Cool.
So, and then we're just passing that array into 41, where now we have these values that we know this is where we want to calculate from, right? So what I had to do here to make this work, where it's just like one after another, or what I came up with was to use the onComplete method, where we pass this anonymous function and we just say like, okay, like let's see what the current index is of that task. And then like if it's below the animated tasks count. So the reason I added this was because we're not trying to animate all of them. We just have push code to get, which you still have to do. So just having a way that like, if for whatever reason, not that we want to leave more tasks in your team's lane, but if for whatever reason we wanted to, we have an easy way to do that. So it's just set to a variable. And it's just checking this. If it's underneath that, then like, let's animate and then get the next one. And then once it's done, that's when we enable draggable stuff on it, right? Because we don't want to be dragging it when it's animating, because then you get into this weird state where it's not the way you want it to work. So
that's
then of course I just
smart way. Yeah. Sorry, I was gonna say the thinking about not having it be draggable as you're animating it, that makes a lot of sense.
Yep. So it's just like one after another. So like as the task completes, it's like, all right, next up, come on over. And then on line 59 is for the task itself, where we want like the task is not moving, but inside it is like an inner wrapper. And this inner wrapper is what causes it to rotate to the side, right? Like dip as it goes over.
Right.
So I had to do that separately to actually make that to work and feel, feel like it wasn't causing it to, because I think what was happening, if I remember, it's been a little bit now, but like when I was trying to make it rotate, it was just causing the whole thing to get out of whack. So by being able to do that separately, so if you can imagine, if you were to inspect it, you'd see like an imaginary line that's not rotating, it's just like moving it over, but then the actual inner wrapper is causing it to like dip down and rotate.
Oh, okay. If Chad, if you don't mind, I actually want to. So is it the L? So the div is what we're like seeing as the card.
Yep.
But the LI is that outer wrapper.
Yeah, and that's the LI is what's being prepended to the other lane. So the LI gets prepended. So CI/CD is prepended to the top of this list, right?
Got it. Let's see. Okay, so we're seeing that. Got it. Nice.
Yep. And so that inner wrapper is what actually gets rotated to create that effect.
Cool. Okay, so how are you doing the sizing shift? Is that easier than I'm expecting, or is that just
That's the flip plugin. So like the flip is then looking at the heights of either lane, or
Okay.
well, of both lanes, and then just expanding and collapsing as it needs based on. So again, if you can imagine, like this thing is already there. Like the task is already in Netlify solves lane, right? So it already knows like it needs to animate based on the size of this task. So it just gets that, adds it to the calculation, then causes it to
over to that
expand a little bit
size?
more.
Cool. Awesome. Let's just check chat, see if there's any questions about this in particular. ZZ asks, can you share the CodePen link? So Ryan did mention that he either might or might clean it up at some point, but we will leave that to him to do.
I will.
You will?
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
I'll do it. I'll do it this week.
All right, cool. They can maybe follow you on Twitter or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But ZZ, it's coming. We'll make sure we get it out to you. Maybe I'll put it in the newsletter. I don't know. I'm not trying to get you signed for the newsletter. I don't know. We will communicate it in some way, but I'm not trying to like farm you to anything that I have. But yeah, just stay. Here you go. And here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna post.
Why don't I just make it? I'll make it public now.
Whoa, ZZ put a lot of pressure on.
I heard you.
Oh boy. ZZ,
All
what else
right.
can we get Ryan to do on stream? Let's find out.
Try it now. Why you got me?
Let's see. All pens. Let's see what we got. Kanban board animation. There it is. All right, folks. So if you want to check that out, there you go. Awesome, Ryan. Thank you. And I apologize once again for, making you, peer pressuring you into that. Fun.
You got me.
No, that's super cool though.
It's
and,
all good. I'm happy to share it.
Yeah, I like the numerous green sock plugins that you're using, scroll trigger, flip, and draggable, each just with a nice little touch. Like the draggable, it didn't need to be there, but it's just a nice little touch. And you even like the details here, like y'all said it was a tight timeline, but the little, I'm gonna try to zoom. I don't know how much I can zoom it. The little frustrated face as you drag it, like it's just a really nice touch. Nice touches. I don't know. This is the kind of stuff that I really enjoy. I need hobbies, I think, is what it is, where I can do this for a while and have a lot of fun. But I don't know. How does that come about? Like, is that like early in the process, or like do you have like a specific time where you're like, all right, now we want to add fun to it? Like, how do you instill that kind of playfulness, that whimsy? Like, where does that come? Just all throughout the process? Is that 1 hour? What is it? Talk to me.
Yeah, I think as we were coming up with this animation, one of the things that I literally did was to ask people for Easter eggs. I think this was just one of the ideas that came up. It was I want to credit Lynn or either Jason Langsdorff for on coming up with this, but yeah, and we actually had somebody on set for the Tale of Two Universes video to take portraits of the characters in it so we could use it on the site. So yeah, it all just came together really well.
I was curious about that. I'm like, did Dom take this in his house? Like, how did you get everyone to do like that? Makes a lot of sense. They did that video. That makes a ton of sense. And I love the asking everyone for Easter eggs, trying to get that kind of fun collaboration going. That's awesome. All right, let me check any questions from chat, and then I've got some of my own for sure. Ben's here. Good to see you, Ben. All right. I'm not seeing any more, but if anyone has a question that they asked before and I didn't get to it, please ask it again, honestly. Ed just says, I like the idea of very quick prototypes in CodePen. He used the same method on a last task that they worked on, and it was great to get quick feedback from the designer and see the actual implementation, even if just a prototype. Yeah, I would agree. I mean, do you find that that's a lot more helpful when you can like code up the example and hand that back to Justin and the team and get feedback there?
Yeah, I think I'm always trying to think of things being their own, sort of existing in their own world, and how does this get put into the layout of the site, right? Like it doesn't necessarily need to it doesn't define the layout. It is its own thing. So I think creating a code pen for it, making it that modular, makes it easier to like really focus on it and like think about how this is going to exist on its own. And then once we put it into a layout, that's when we have to think about how that parent container is telling it how to behave.
Cool.
So it's definitely, I think, very helpful. And then, yeah, just sharing those one-off links with the team and getting feedback.
Do you want to say anything on that? Either Sam or Justin?
No, I think it was great. I think the combination of sharing animatics and then having the prototypes in CodePen come back and really having visuals to kind of talk through things and really illustrate what we wanted was amazing. It was a great experience working on this together.
Mm-hmm. Kind of just from like a co-developer experience, like just being able to see the code in its own like encapsulated environment without, you know, all of our like build configuration stuff on top of it. It was very helpful for me to just kind of like go in, see how things are structured, and if I needed to like change anything or manipulate anything, it would just happen right in that code pen. So I think it's a really helpful tool for two developers to be working with each other too.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Just like seeing that in isolation, not needing to wonder, is this the thing that's changing that, or is it somewhere else in this whole repository? Lynn, I'm not sure, Lynn, if you're asking me or the team if they handled that. I do not have prefers reduced motion.
I think she might be answering the question earlier. Yeah.
Oh God! Oh, sorry. Yeah. Thank you, Lynn. So I don't see the interactive live version. So it's funny. I was actually going to ask about prefers reduced motion and any other just things you kept in mind as you were building it. So we can start with that. So like accessibility around motion, but accessibility more broadly even.
Yeah, this was a tough one because, you know, reduced motion doesn't mean no motion, right? So trying to think about what can we do to still have some delight there. So I think it's something I'd like to come back to and think about a little bit more. But what we've done is we've just kind of disabled a lot of the motion. So like, for example, when you scroll down, you won't see the screen get bigger and the things moving. Yeah, I think you could set it here. You're going to have to reload the page.
Does it stay where I just had it? Like the prefer do not emulate. Yep. So I still should be emulating. So yeah, okay. So that just stays as it is, right? That's like that makes sense because that's not really like necessary animation for those kind of expand. Like this feels like a good state for that to be in. But then these, so it just
and then like these are already over. I think you could. Can you still drag them? I can't remember.
No,
you cannot. Okay, so it's all just
asset.
Yeah. So we tried to go a little. I mean, too static. That should be not animating in. So we'll have to look into that one.
Before I scroll further, I just want to say this is I'm not trying to make this like you missed something kind of like
no, this is good.
Live stream or anything. I don't
out Alex right in front of everyone. Yeah, go ahead.
This heading should be a pixel bigger. I don't know what y'all are doing. Call yourself professionals. No, so I do want to make that clear both to you and to the chat. Like this is not a let's find faults or anything like that, or So just curious how things are kind of.
This would be a static.
It should be static, yeah. So I don't know why that's not being set.
But yeah, I mean, but I you took it into consideration and still have things that you want to improve with it. So that's awesome. But yeah, the disabled JavaScript bit, merit points. Did you also, sorry, stutter. I have a stutter chat, so apologies for hanging on things. Did you also reference Stripe? I'm not, seen it asked it a couple times. I don't know if there's a reference or
for design.
I don't know.
We did not, or at least not intentionally. I think Stripe does get name dropped a little bit when we're talking about design sometimes, but no.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, so Aku Manara, I'm not sure about that part. Yeah, had prefers reduced motion. Oh, okay. All right, well that was it. Cool. So what was I? Yeah, so I was gonna ask about the prefers reduced motion. Anything around performance? Like, are you doing any kind of tricks to make it so that it loads a little faster? I mean, you're already using 11T, but is there anything additional there?
Yeah, there was actually a couple of things that we're still trying to improve a little bit. So, like, one of the biggest things is SVG assets being exported from Figma. Figma's not great. So, like, we've used like SVG OMG to kind of help optimize that a little bit, but I think there's still a couple of things we can do to make it even better. And one of the other issues that we hit, if you scroll back up, was that make your workflow section. So we actually had that
There.
built out and animating. Like we had these gradients animating and these items animating into the logo, but it was choking in Safari. So we ended up having to remove it semi last minute and saying, you know what, it's not worth going out with yet. Like, let's really try to figure this out and see what we can do. So that's one of those times where we had to pivot from the animation, where like how much is too much and what can we do to make this better. So something we plan to come back to.
Yeah. Do you know why? Is it like animating PNGs or SVG? Yeah, I'm curious about that.
It was I couldn't really pinpoint it exactly. Like, so when the first implementation was just using like SVG animation, like I think it's like SMIL. I don't
Yeah,
know what the
something like that.
abbreviation stands for, but it is like the native animation for baked into SVGs. So I was relying on that because there's browser support across the major browsers. And in isolation, the animation was working as expected. But we found that once we put it in the page and it was like a part of like the whole entire story and scroll experience,
Yeah.
we were seeing like a lot of frame drops. So if you go into like your browser tools and go into like the animations, I think, or something like that, you're able to like record a snippet of the animation, and then you can kind of dig into like the CPU usage, the frame rates, and stuff like that. And so then we thought maybe we would use like GSAP to handle it, because we're using GSAP to handle the rest of the homepage,
Right.
and we were still seeing a lot of the same behavior. So that's when we kind of just ultimately decided that we'll just go with something static and revisit this for another time. But yeah, it's kind of a little bit about the iterative process and kind of testing the performance of things and making that decision to just use a static asset because that's a better experience.
Yeah, the trade-offs there. That's really interesting. That one part.
Yeah. It was only just this one part, and it's only in Safari. Firefox and Chrome look beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So I wish we were able to like deliver that. It was a lot of work went into that, but
it
it's
still gets the point across. Like, I do get that these are going to here. So just want to say, design, Justin, well done. It was communicated even with a static asset, like top marks there. Justin, sticking with you, I'm curious, what do you have like a favorite part of this where you're just like that bit? Like, what's your favorite part of the whole thing? You got to choose too.
Yeah, I'd say the parts where it introduces more delight. So I know we talked about this a bunch, but like the Kanban board is great. I think the little Easter egg and like the details there really does bring the site and the brand to life. So I would say that would be my favorite.
Got it. That's a good choice. So I think I'm still emulating. Oh, I just hit print. Oh no, hold on. It's gonna take like 10 minutes for. It's printing. Hold on. It's gonna try to print. Does anyone else have this problem where you hit print and it takes forever? No, thanks. I don't know. It might just be me, but I don't like
work at that print style sheet.
Yeah, I mean that almost choked my computer out. Reduce motion, emulate. This means it's off, right? Like, hold on. I'm trying to figure out why this isn't reloading for me. There. Okay, cool. I apologize. Going back and forth between DevTools and conversation can be tricky at times. But Justin, back to what you said. Yeah, these are really fun. That's cool. Do you have a favorite bit, Ryan? For you, like a most fun little detail?
I think exploring, I mean, I kind of side with Justin, exploring the flip technique here,
Cool.
like trying to get them to tilt as they went over. I think, Justin had a lot of really great ideas, and I'm like, man, I want to figure that out. So it was really fun and challenging, but in the best way, trying to get this to actually work in browser. So I would definitely pick this part.
Got it. So Justin has so like the concept here for moving them over and even like the animation of the tilt to show the motion and everything, that was Justin, and you had to kind of figure out how to make that extra wrapper and all that stuff.
Yeah, like I don't want to say no. I want to figure it out. So that was a fun challenge for sure.
That's awesome. And Sam, what about you?
Yeah. My baby was like the scroll story at the bottom, but like
Nice.
a finer point was like probably like when we have the UIs, the different UIs coming in and overlapping.
Yeah. This right here,
And then we
right?
had like and then we had like the frameworks or tools next to them. I remember like in an earlier implementation where I would have like the icons were kind of going by too fast, and you couldn't really see, you couldn't make the connection that they were a piece of the UI. So I was like kind of thinking like how would what a better solution, and kind of like just how I was able to like break it up into two parts. So where like the icons first come in with the UI, and then they slide out when the next UI comes in. That was like a nice bit of it that I felt like helped tell the story better. And it was just something I thought, just a little detail that I was like, oh, okay, this makes more sense. This looks a lot better. It's like that, finding that little dial that you turn, and then it's like, oh, okay, now it feels
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, no, I completely see what you mean. It almost feels like each little icon are like two birds just kind of like gently dropping it off, and then they fly off. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
I'm seeing, at least. Like the way that they're not like stuck to the image, but they're kind of like lightly there, and then they fly off. But they're it feels like they're carrying them in to an extent, and
I
then
like
they
that.
leave
I
it.
like
Like
that analogy. Yeah.
it's just the right amount of delay, and then it goes. Yeah, it's a really nice touch, Sam. I'm glad you pointed that out. Those small details mean, or they make the difference, and they like help with communication. So yeah, that's awesome. $1 million question: did the marketing team want custom smooth scroll bars? From Akumanara.
Actually, I don't know what that is. What
Yeah.
is-
I'm guessing smooth scroll is my guess. Aku. I'm not sure, but
It's
I'm
like
guessing
those, like,
no.
agency sites where they like take over, or it's like more of like a
Oh,
smooth
right.
scrolling thing. I don't think we really discussed.
Yeah,
Like that sort of light scroll jacking where it feels a little
Yeah.
bit faster.
What we're talking about.
Yeah, there's like inertia, and it just kind of like you scroll a
Yeah.
little bit, and it like takes a while to get going. And I don't know. Those can be tricky and not usually not super great with accessibility and other things.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we always want to default to just the standard behavior on the web, if at all possible.
yeah, that makes sense. Tylopius asks, we're talking about the homepage like it's its own project, which begs the question, is this its own repository? And Netlify is built out of multiple repositories, or how is this composed? Really good question.
Yeah, that's a great question. No, it's a single repository. So this is now built into the marketing site repository. But it was approached as its own project. It does sound like we're talking about it like we just like siloed this thing, but it is part of the main ecosystem.
Okay, so talk about that a little more in terms of like what I think we touched on it before, where this is kind of like the start of, or like the one big push for the new, or I guess updated brand guidelines, or design system. I'm not sure what you're calling it internally. And then you're going to kind of ripple these new styles, new colors, maybe new fonts, I think, out to the rest. Is that kind of right? So this is built alongside everything else, but still built in like its own kind of project folder, I guess.
Yeah,
Like it's just a bit different.
It's its own directory inside where 11D does its thing and builds out the homepage and all the assets that go with it, but it's not like it's living external from the rest of the site.
Mhm.
And then when you talk about like the colors and design system stuff, that is something we're debating on how to approach that.
Okay.
So like tokens, for example, are hosted in their own repository, and we're all pulling from that,
Cool.
right? So I think like we'll lean into that a little bit more, but again, that's still very early stages, work in progress in terms of how we approach it.
Cool. Justin, did you want to touch on anything there?
I mean, yeah, I think the iterative process for us is the way to go, given where we are right now and where we want to be and the amount of time we have with the design system. So really appreciate the thought put behind how we can ramp this up in the future.
Cool. Was there anything else that y'all wanted to kind of show us or touch on about the site or anything else?
I think that's it for the homepage anyway. I'm
Yeah.
sure there's a lot of stuff we can dig into, but
Well, you've all signed a contract to come in, to come back with every landing page that you launch to break it down in,
No, this was a lot of fun. We'd love to do that.
Awesome. Sam, I really appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, chat, unless you have any other questions, I am, let me just make sure I've asked all my questions, because I don't want to have to email y'all tomorrow morning or like dead of night tonight, be like, I forgot to ask. And then I have to call everyone back. Chat has to come back and we have to say the thing again. So let me just make sure that we kind of got to Easter eggs. There's a Konami code if anyone missed that. Make sure you dig into that. We talked about kind of the message, the reason that the site's, well, not the reason the site's being made. You need a website, but the thing that you're trying to communicate to people is that Netlify is like where you can bring all of your tools, everything together. It all can happen here, and then the Kanban, I don't know. This board is
Tomato.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Sam.
as you like it.
This kind of communicates that we can handle everything except for just pushing the code. So you have a lot of like small stories that kind of add up to the bigger product story of Netlify, and then the animations really help to bring that all together and tell that story in a way that sometimes static images can't. I mean, static image can here for sure. Everyone understands this. We all get it. But other places, you might want some animation there. And then, yeah, I think we kind of touched on everything. I don't know. Let me just check. I can see you used a custom-built slider approach. Good job on implementing keyboard navigation. Did you think about using Swiper or any other made slider? Good question.
That is a good question. And this is something I built on my own website. So I kind of had this approach already sort of in mind where I was like, okay, well, I can just reuse a lot of what I did there. So like the navigation with keyboard, thinking about like using your arrow keys, because like, at least for my site, there's like 46 code pens that I have as soon as you go to it, where it's like, I don't want you to have to like tab through everything. So it's one of those things where you can tab into it, skip over it, or then use your arrow keys to navigate those elements inside it. So I kind of brought that approach here. And then we're just using CSS just to have it slide back and forth. And then I've added a drag to it as well, so you can like hold it and drag it over.
Yeah, that's great. So just bringing something in that you've created for your own purpose and able to use it here. And yeah, the accessibility touches are fantastic. Gonna wrap up with just a couple, or I think just maybe one more. Have you tried alternatives to GreenSock, or was this set from the get-go?
I'm opinionated. No, I mean, we didn't really think too much about it, I guess. I don't know, Sam, if you had thoughts on that, but I was all green sock. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
So like in other parts of the site, we had used like the intersection observer to kind of handle some like on scroll event stuff like that. But with the homepage and how much was involved and how many pieces were needed to be kind of like orchestrated at once, like being able to just like use green sock to handle that was kind of saved a lot of time.
Cool. Yeah, especially for such a complex timeline like this.
Right.
This feels like it'd be really although I mean if we
We always
could
have, yeah.
if we
It's
could
always
download Lynn's brain, that would be
Yeah.
really helpful because this, I don't know, this is amazing. Both amazing.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be like this is good. This is no, but they're both great. I just don't get like I can wrap my head around how you're doing this a lot more. Is all.
Same.
Not trying to say it's less impressive. I'm personally more experienced with this. This I'm like, I don't know how what.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's
Yeah.
about one div and a billion layers of box shadow. That's how most of her.
Read the
Right.
blog post.
But I mean, I'd rather just guess and then not have to read it.
Don't assume.
Awesome. Y'all, thank you. Ryan, Justin, Sam, thank you so much for coming on. Do you want to wait? So where can they find you on the web, Ryan? Let me pull up your website. RyanMulligan.dev. Is that it?
Yeah, Ryan Mulligan.
All right.
It used to be Hexagon Circle for the longest time.com, and then I was like, I want to get away from that and just be me. But if you go to RyanMulligan.com, it's been like that for like over 10 years, and I can't take it. So I'm waiting for the day I can have it. But .dev is great. It fits.
It's handy. And then samtan.dev, right?
Yes. Yeah, you can find me there.
And fun websites. I've perused. And Justin, what's yours again? I'm blanking off.
It's just my name.com, justinchuan.com. There's nothing impressive though, so.
Well, we will let chat decide. I'm just kidding. But I just want to drop you there. And thank you so much to the three of you. Thank you to Jason Langsdorff of Netlify for kind of setting this up, and to Cassie Evans of GreenSock for recommending this to happen at all, and to the chat for being here, all the gifted subs, everything. This was a ton of fun. Really appreciate everyone's time here. So thank you so much. And I'm good to call it, but I just want to make sure everyone good to call it. You good?
Yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah,
cool.
I just want to give a quick shout out to the rest of the marketing team and all those who participated in making this happen, especially Todd Morey, who came up with a lot of the storytelling concepts. So.
It took a village for sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, thank you to everyone who worked on this, and to the three of you for spending the time. We're going to find someone to raid, so chat, hang in there, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.
Bye.